Hi everyone, Kerrie from Conversations at Kerrie's Korner. How are you? On this late Thursday evening, raining from Texas, and it is the day before the 4th of July. It's July 3rd. Hope you're having a splendid day, and the holiday is here. Can you believe it? The holiday. Halfway between, it's a signal that we are halfway between the summer. Can't believe that either. We're halfway between the summer. It just seems like it was Memorial Day. So I wanted to come in tonight and I wanted to do a podcast. There's been a lot of things happening in our country in the last 2 weeks. And I wanted to bring a couple of things to your attention to talk about. That's what we do here at Conversations at Kerrie's Korner, is we bring to your attention some subjects that I think need to be talked about, that we can share with our family and our circle of influence. And the last 2 weeks have been very busy here in the United States. We've had a lot going on, lot of news. Sorry, my phone keeps not being straight. I think that's it, right? Okay. Conversations at Kerrie's Korner, that's what we do. We just bring to your attention things that I hope you will take and share with your influence. So we can start a conversation, because when we talk to each other, that's when we can make significant changes. And there's been a lot going on this week that I think that we need to talk about, because I think we need to make some changes. These are really important matters that can affect everybody at some point in their life. And I think it's important that we talk about it. First of all, if you follow me at all, you know that I'm a conservative. So I do want to take a minute and thank all of the hardworking men and women in Congress that put Americans first this week, by getting the president's bill passed. A lot of people are going to disagree with that, and that's okay, because we all don't need to agree. We do need a left and a right. We do need a dual party system. We need that, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that are very unhappy about it. I just wish that those people that were really unhappy about it were really educated and informed correctly, and that's a whole separate podcast about our information delivery systems, which have been compromised, as we all know and have seen. So thank you to those hardworking men and women that got that passed, because it is important to the conservative agenda, to President Trump's agenda, and to getting our country headed back in the right direction. None of us wanted to be looking at this holiday and thinking, we have 6 months till the end of the year, and I've got to generate an additional 68% revenue to make up for what I just lost because the bill didn't pass. Luckily, we don't have to think like that. Luckily, we know the bill passed tonight, so we're all not going to be getting that tax rate increase, which is fabulous news. Who wants to pay more taxes? I know you don't. I don't. None of us do. The ones that are complaining about that, by the way, are the upper 20% of the population that make millions of dollars, like the leadership on the left, who are millionaires because of you and me, and because of our money and our hard work and the money they have earned as a sitting congressperson. You know, they don't get paid the kind of money that would generate the kind of wealth they have. They make it because of their position. So for them to complain and mislead the American public, well, that's just not okay. So I have to call that out. They're not giving you the real facts. And the real facts are things that you need to figure out from doing your own personal investigation and listening to podcasts and people who are really giving you the news. You know, if President Trump and his administration does something that I don't agree with, I'm going to say it, because he won my a loyalty after watching what he did the first time. And so if he does something that I don't necessarily agree with, I'm going to say that I don't necessarily agree with it, because that's what we all need to be doing. If the left does something that I'm going to agree with, I'm going to say it. If the right does something, I'm going to say it. So that's what we got to do. We got to be bringing everything to the plate, everything to the attention of each other, so we can talk about these things, because that's when we can make truly important change for all of us. So I do want to thank them for their hard work in getting this very important bill passed, and I look forward to seeing the president sign it tomorrow. What I want to talk to you today about is a really important subject, and it's about our safety here in the United States and what we've seen transpired this week in the legal arena. 2 very important decisions that came down on the same day, actually, which is crazy. First, we have the Diddy Holmes, is it Holmes or Combs? I don't know. Diddy. He was acquitted on the major felony charges, the racketeering and the sex trafficking. And I don't know how that happened. I'm just going to tell you how I feel about it. I don't sugarcoat, and I don't mislead. I don't think that's right. I don't know how you could look at the evidence and not think those two things. But 12 jurors didn't see it that way, and so they acquitted him of those things. They did find him guilty on the other charges, however, prostitution charges. I'd like to know where the assault charges are for his girlfriend that we saw on that video. Where is that charge? Was he convicted of that already? Is he going to be charged with assault? He obviously assaulted her. He's even admitted that. So where is that charge? What disturbs me is, again, we have a very powerful, very well-known, famous individual who has been able to get acquitted. And it's a disturbing trend. We've seen it too many times in the past, haven't we, here in this country? Money can buy you freedom, and that's not okay. Because the average American wouldn't be able to do that. The average American, most likely, and the majority of the time, is found guilty. So what does it say about our judicial system when our judicial system is available to the highest price tag? That's not okay. I don't think that's okay for anybody. But yet we see it over and over again. And we got to fix that. Because if you commit these horrific crimes, you should be punished. We live in a society that has laws. That's how we keep our society civil, is by enforcing our laws. And when we don't enforce the laws for everyone the same, that's when anarchy comes into play. And I think if you ask the majority of Americans if they agreed with that decision from his case, they would all say absolutely not. That he should have been convicted on all charges. Because he abused his position. He abused his celebrity. He abused what the American people gave him. And not just the American people, but the majority of his money comes from the revenue he makes in the United States. So his position and his power comes from the kindness of Americans for supporting him and his art. And he didn't return that. He abused it. He abused his position. And it's happening way too often that celebrities are buying their way out of our justice system. And we've got to figure out a way to stop that. We've seen people get out of murder, haven't we? Biggest case of the century. He got away with murder. And that's not okay. You should not be able to buy your way out of justice, and it's happening way too often in our land. Justice is not being served equally either, and that's another big problem. And then, probably the most disturbing case I've seen in my lifetime, 4 innocent souls in Idaho were snatched away in the middle of the night by a monster who premeditatedly murdered them with a knife. 3 of them while they were asleep and had no prayer of defense. And yet, the district attorney in this case decided that he didn't deserve the death penalty. How he came to that conclusion, I will never understand. How he can deliver this news to the families of those victims via email and an attached letter, not having the courtesy and respect to pick up the phone and advise these families that a plea deal had been made. How is that okay? Well, it's not okay. If there's ever a case in our society of a man who should be held accountable with the death penalty, this man is it. He is the epitome of the evil that walks among us. He had no care. He was infatuated with Ted Bundy, another mass murderer. So he planned and executed his murderous spree. 4 lives cut short, 4 college kids. And now those families have to live their lives trying to figure out how to find their life after this horrific murder of their beloved. There's no excuse for the failures of our judicial system. It should not happen. These two juries, in this case, this was a district attorney. It hadn't even gone to trial. Should have had more respect for the American public to make the decisions that were made. And the jury in the Holmes case should have held this man accountable for the horrific things that he's done. Not just some of them, but all of them. Now, he's probably going to be in prison, did he? He's probably going to see some time, but is it enough time? He'll be back out on the street at some point. How do we know that he's not going to do it again? How do we know that he's not going to assault another woman or perpetuate the kinds of just horrible things that he did? Perversion. How do we know that he's not going to do it again? Because he's not being held accountable for them. Is he going to knock another female down and drag her by her hair? Where's his punishment? And why should the citizens of Idaho have to pay for the rest of this man's life? Give him 3 meals, a bed, a roof over his head, access to college, to a job, to friends, to a television, to write letters, to have a life when he stole 4. How is that a fair settlement? I hope the district attorney involved here has real trouble sleeping at night, because he has failed those victims, and he's failed those families, and he has failed the citizens of his county by not going after the death penalty for this man, because he's evil. All you have to do is look at him, look at his eyes. There's nothing there. It's just black emptiness. There's no soul. He even sounds soulless. So as Americans, how do we fix these issues? Well, the way we fix them is to contact our local officials. Make sure that they are understanding that we are not in agreement with these things, and putting forth solutions so our local, state, and national representatives can address them, and then hold them accountable if they don't. We have a checks and balance system in this country. We live in a republic, and so this is how we do it. But nothing will change if we don't have our voices heard, if we don't take a stand as citizens and demand these changes. And the way we do that is by first talking to each other, coming up with a game plan, and then moving forward and following through. That's how we make changes. We can't let murderers think that they can commit these horrific crimes and then know that we're just going to say, okay, well, we're going to let you live, because it's not a deterrent. I live in Texas, and boy, I tell you what, this is why Texans are always locked and loaded, because we know there's evil, and we're going to defend ourselves. As granted by the Constitution, we have the right to bear arms, and we do. We have to send a message to the society that we're not going to tolerate these acts of cruelty and violence. And if you do, you're going to be held accountable. These decisions this week do not send that message. They send the opposite message. So now it's up to us to hold those that were involved in these decisions accountable for them. Because that's the only way we're going to change it. Our involvement, our voices, our demands, our unhappiness and dissatisfaction. We have to become more of an involved public. Instead of just letting it happen, we have to get on the airways and demand change. One of the ways I'm hoping to do that is through this podcast. By bringing these things to your attention, so you can take it and have a conversation with somebody else, and then pay it forward down till we get to that person that can affect a change, or can present it to the appropriate people to start the conversation to make the change. That's how a republic works. And we all need to become more engaged. We, the people. 4 lives lost. And what punishment will he really have? I mean, so he's not free. He still has a life. Those poor kids are dead. And what kind of life are Diddy's victims going to have? How do we know that he won't retaliate? Imagine how scared they are, knowing he will get out. Has he learned his lesson? That's a scary thought, because there's no guarantees he won't do it again. Our judicial system is supposed to be the best in the world. Unfortunately, this week it hasn't been the shining example on the hill. It's failed us twice this week. Big time. And I'm not okay with it. That's why I'm making this podcast. Please share. Start a conversation. Because that's how we affect change as we the people, by talking to each other calmly, rationally, intelligently, and trying to come up with solutions for our problems instead of just arguing about them. I hope you have a wonderful 4th of July. It is the most dangerous holiday of the year, so please be careful if you're traveling. Please don't drink and drive. More people are killed on this weekend than any other in American society, so please, please be careful. Do not drink and drive. Make sure you're giving yourself plenty of room to stop and pay attention at all times. Put the cell phone down. Make it home safely. Conversations at Kerrie's Corner. I try to do 2 a week, and they're always about subjects that are relevant and things that are happening in our world and in our society and in our republic. So I would love some feedback. If there's something that you hear that you would like to discuss, I'm absolutely okay with that. That's what this is all about, is starting the conversation. I hope that you share the podcast, though. Pass it on to your circle of influence, because that's how we really can affect change and take control of our republic. We the people. It's our responsibility. The people in Washington are there because we put them there. So if they're not doing the job, we need to remove them. Happy 4th of July, America. I hope it is a spectacular holiday weekend. I hope you have a blessed time with your family. Of course, always be safe, be prepared, watch your surroundings, and safe travels home. This is Kerrie from Conversations at Kerrie's Corner. Thanks for joining me on this Thursday, July 3rd. Happy birthday, America. We'll see you the next time.